obviously Aatrox has been the standout. When I look at Flandre, like of course Flandre can play the Aatrox. You would expect EG to want to go towards that. But, you know, Fudge is someone who's very comfortable playing counters like the Fioras, like the Jaxes, and for EDG top lane has been a point of struggle.
I also was very appreciative of C9's attempt at going for a more skill-intensive draft. I think that starting off confident isn't necessarily a flaw in of itself, but after seeing that yesterday against Fnatic, that didn't quite work out, I would personally expect them to at least steer away and try to get some easier win conditions so that you don't really run the same risk of does your first 15 minutes not go very well, you're immediately behind, and you're basically playing on the back foot the entire game.
And to look over to EDG's side, they don't need to worry about the Yuumi. That one has been banned away. Thank you, C9, for that one. Don't have to deal with the cat on a book for this particular game, and that was definitely very difficult for EDG to deal with yesterday. But there is the Aatrox first pick that we've seen all over the place. Yeah, and we'll see what the answer is going to be.
And like I said, Fudge, a player who is able to go for the Fiora. We've seen a champion that has been blind picked quite a bit, but now knowing you're into the Aatrox isn't something I'd be surprised if we do see Fudge go into. The other play some quite curious is jungle, because yesterday Fnatic actually put respect on Blabber's name and banned out something like an Olaf. So Blabber, a player who's able to bring out a lot of different picks in the jungle role for C9.
I'm actually really glad that this Fiora has been locked in here, because I think that Fudge, even though yesterday didn't necessarily go so well, I think that this could be a fantastic lane to play through.
I agree. I just want to see C9 pivot so that the rest of the comp actually allows Fudge to pop off. Because what happened yesterday, as how many times have we seen this exact draft?
I know, how many times do we have to see the fact that Genji picked the wrong bottom lane yesterday? Because this worked so well in the game we just saw for Fnatic, and the Lucian Nami was brilliant there. It didn't work so well when it was the Syndra Center. So once again, we're gonna see this on the blue side.
And now for the side of C9, I feel like you want to start trying to outrange this draft. So going towards something like the Victor, going to try and outrange things like the Aatrox and the Poppy. You're going to have a solid laning phase up against the Azir. So at least we're starting to see teams pivot in terms of how they draft against a strong three-man core.
What I do like with the Victor and Aphelios is that in terms of wave clear, you're going to feel very safe. So if Fudge does get a lead in that isolated lane against the Aatrox, especially if Blabber pays some attention to the top side, you have an opportunity there. Downside is that especially post-6, we've seen Victors fall prey a lot to just getting shoved in, your flash gets burned, and especially with a Poppy, any subsequent gank while your flash timer is down becomes really, really hard to play.
Yeah, being Victor into Azir, we've seen all across the world be a very, very difficult thing to deal with. You just get Emperors divided and die. Sort of what happens.
Just a bunch of mobility coming out from both of C9's carries, I think, does leave EDG some options with where they want to go. But I'm more curious to see where C9 want to go next with their draft. Jungle pool getting incredibly pinched. And, I mean, we haven't really been left in a scenario where we kind of get outside the Maokai's, Sejuani's, Hekarims of the world. I guess that is still left up, and now with things like the Poppy shifting back into the meta, I think it could open up some interesting options for Blabber.
And we have seen things like the Skarner come through as a counter pick to the Poppy. Don't know if that's going to be the exact direction here. Of course, a bit of a specific with the Kalista. I think in the beginning of the tournament, very much a first rotation ban, but as we've seen more and more solo lanes and top sides prioritized, Aphelios notwithstanding, she's been making it through to the second round of bans before still getting banned away.
And oftentimes actually falling entirely through the draft. She is going to be banned away here against Viper, who didn't find success on it yesterday, but he's a fantastic Kalista player just in general, would fit the composition quite nicely, and not going to be able to play that Lucian Nami, so we're not going to get a run back of the Fnatic draft. There's Xin Zhao being considered for Blabber, definitely. A pick that can influence the early game. You're going to be very happy about that if you're a C9 fan.
And it's also something that can work well in skirmishes later on, right? Throw out the ultimate. Going to be hard to be able to lock him down, get damage on him. He's going to be able to provide peel for both Jensen and Berserker in team fights.
Disengage too, going to be pretty important with that Crescent Guard, with the fact that EDG are already presenting a lot of ways, you know, a lot of things that they want to get out of their fight. But Viper is going to lock away the Jinx. Jinx, Thresh to be locked in here potentially for EDG. Mako going to bring that one out right after Carrier picked it in the game before.
And EDG saying, well, scaling so far has looked pretty good in the tournament. We're going to just follow that. Jinx coming back here again. Mako going to be able to provide a lot of innate safety, and the front to back from EDG already looks incredible. If you can get to the 5v5s, you can have the Jinx with the range combined with Azir becomes really hard to find backline access, and especially with that Kench lock-in, I think C9 really gonna have to get Fudge ahead early.
Yeah, 100%, because, right, I feel like we're seeing things like the Jinx pivoted into not only for scaling, but you hit on it a little bit, the range. This brings us back to Spring Split, where it's like, okay, Jinx are able to outrange the Aphelios, you're gonna outrange the Victor later on as well. They're gonna have an incredibly strong front to back. For the side of C9, I feel like you're also going to be relying not only on getting Fudge ahead, but also abusing the fact that Aphelios is a bit of a better mid-game with things like the Gale Force to just try and find that outright burst. And of course, having the Xin setting up for that well with the early pressure it can provide.
Yeah, this is definitely looking like it could be interesting as the game goes on. The push that you're going to have in the early game, especially pre-6 for the Victor, should be able to give Blabber some avenues to get around that jungle. But I'm worried, like you guys are talking about when it comes to that late game. Jinx Azir is something that we from the LCK know a lot about, thanks to a lot of players really defaulting to both of those picks. We've seen them used early game and late game in a lot of those compositions. But EDG, it just looks so standard, comfortable, front to back, it just does its job.
The thing is, that's exactly how it looked yesterday for EDG coming out of draft. Solid across the board, not a lot of weaknesses, the scaling was there, and that's why, you know, a lot of C9 fans in the crowd, I feel good for them going against EDG because EDG struggled against teams that were looking to push the pace in the early game. That's why it felt like teams like Top Esports and JDG were able to get the better of them. So with Cloud9 having agency in this draft, if they can find those leads, they can snowball this game.
And we are just about ready to hop onto the Rift for game number 4 of the day. Cloud9 trying to bounce back off yesterday's loss. EDG trying to do exactly the same thing. Of course, they've had slow starts in the past as well. And our world champions from last year really wanting to find some success now. They'll have to go through C9 to do it. Here we are.
And looking at the early game, I mentioned earlier, I would love to see some attention paid to Fudge. I think that looking at the rest of the map, it can be quite hard, especially as long as summoners are still up to get a good angle on either Viper or Mako or on Scout. So trying to get Flandre behind, trying to make sure that Fudge actually is able to leverage the matchup, unlike yesterday where I don't even think it was Fudge's Fiora's play specifically, it was more how the team played around it and how they kept opting in the team fights with a Fiora, and they weren't really in a position to get anything out of that.
Yeah, and especially, it's just because both drafts do look pretty slow in the early game, right? That, for me, it's a lot about setting Fudge up and then transition that is Mako.
Yeah, Hook already connecting here. Just sending a message more than anything else here for Mako. Not going to go over that wall, don't think.
Which, probably for the best.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Don't start throwing this one away early on. But then looking at the early game for the side of EDG, I feel like a lot should just be on JJ looking to shadow early. You can try and punish bot lane in terms of trying to get something off on the Tahm Kench and make sure that these plays are able to come through with the Thresh. Yeah. But then it's a lot about once that level 6 comes online and then utilizing the fact that Scout has the ability to, again, take Jensen's flash and just kind of look to play make on repeat.
Yeah, we're seeing already that EDG playing pretty aggressively here towards the bottom side. Of course, this is a bit of an age-old matchup, the old Aphelios into the Jinx, something that we haven't had to talk about for quite some time because we've been stuck in Zeri Sivir purgatory for quite some time. Thankfully, we are now out of it and back to an old purgatory that we used to deal with many moons ago. Mako going to miss his first hook. Can't hit all of them. And C9 going to have to now deal with EDG pushing underneath their turret.
Yeah, all comes full circle. We went from a spring with just these two champions to a summer with just Zeri and Sivir. And I guess now we're back to the Jinx and the Aphelios. Looking at the pathing here, have opposite pathing. So Blabber making his way towards the top side of the map, whereas JJ, as you're saying, at least in the early game, not going to be able to keep track. As far as I'm aware, neither team got a lot of intel as to which jungler started where, but EDG gonna get the crash here, and with JJ there as well, I think they're gonna feel very, very safe to keep the pressure rather up on Berserker and Sven.
And I think it should be expected, right, for both teams about where jungles do want to path. I mean, for C9, I think very clearly wanting to play up towards that top side of the map, and EDG having those pick tools down towards bot side, so we are just going to end up trading scuttles, and I think a lot of it's going to come down to if either side lane wants to go for the punish.
There we go. Cool guys don't look at explosions. and some shellfish for Blabber. So very happy is the C9 jungler. JJ also going to pick one up for himself. As Scout could be in trouble. Blabber trying to get in there, but thankfully some shifting sands are going to be available there, and Scout makes it out just fine. JJ not even needed, as Death Ray doing some work here, as Jensen is making sure he keeps the pressure up onto Scout.
And I do at least really like that Blabber is looking to use these opportunities. Only having his crowd camp up, so not too much available. Look for the play mid. Scout, of course, able to get out of there. And if you can try and set Jensen up for a back, considering he does have that mana bar low, and then come back to lane, and again, kind of assert that dominance with the E, get the push going, and really open up Blabber to look for options in terms of controlling either side of the river.
And with how low action thus far we've been, I wonder what we're going to see in terms of setup around the early objectives. First Drake coming up soon, and I do remember Lyric talking to both you and Dagda a lot about how much the LPL prioritizes the early Drake, arguably much more so than our team, and I wonder whether that's going to be the case here for EDG as well, because while I think that they have a pretty easy way of finding priority in a lot of their lanes, actually winning an early skirmish against the power of something like Xin Zhao can be quite tough.
Yeah, I think it will be quite hard. For EDG, I think it's about getting that vision down, spotting where Blabber is, and then using that prio coming out from your bot lane 2v2. But you can see C9 not going to want to let that happen. I already like that they're hovering towards mid and trying to cement some control bot lane themselves.
Yeah, Berserker getting a bit of gravitum onto Viper there, but the backup not quite arriving in time to get anything done. I'm glad that you mentioned the Dragon, gentlemen. Of course, C9, another team that does very, very much enjoy killing dragons. They did a lot of it during the summer split, so we'll see who's going to be able to get their hands on it. But like you say, I think it's going to be a bit of slow burn. And when it comes to late game, I think it's a really interesting discussion because Fiora exists in this game, and she is always a late game win condition. I find it so difficult to talk about scaling when she exists.
And the interesting thing there is that both teams engage, I think, is relatively lackluster as long as you can keep track of specifically the Poppy and maybe a Mako hook, but especially looking at C9, it's quite a tough one. It's JJ.
Yeah, it was seen on vision there, but the Emperor's Fight is still going to land. Jensen holding onto his flash, uses it now. Blabber in position. Can he stop this? As the gravity field's fantastic defensively. Wind becomes lightning. JJ, oh, no one to attack was cancelled. Could be in trouble, but Jensen is likely to go down first. There is first blood to the EDG mid laner, and Mako has made his way up, waste no time. Instant flash, and that's a double.
And it almost was there for the side of Cloud9. Jensen able to escape, but sadly Blabber not able to finish off the kill. Scout able to go for the turnaround, and great 2-0 start for EDG.
And we talk about this being... It starts slow, and all of a sudden, what looks like initially, I think, quite a nice setup here with Jensen getting shoved back. He stays alive for a really long time. JJ crucially doesn't find the wall, and then Blabber comes in, and you're thinking, he's done it.
Yeah, it looks like he had it. W does connect, and then not able to go through in the end because of the ward going down. Scout the whole time, though, was just hammering away on Jensen. Flandre making his way down. You can see in the mid lane, even Mako had the roam over because they had pushed, and they commit so much to get this kill coming through. I like that Flandre did hold on to his flash, though, so we'll be able to keep up with that one. And again, now EDG in such a great spot. When we were hitting on earlier, one of the plays you have available with the Azir once you get post 6 is what we saw them do, right? Go for the Empress Divide, throw Jensen in. Jensen now not having flash up, Scout still holds on to his, and now already making his way to a lost chapter.
This game has all of a sudden become a lot more difficult for Cloud9. However, this Dragon should be going their way. Cloud9 with the Cloud Drake, very fitting. And that will be taken down. Success. So, next one going to be an Infernal. I would hazard a guess that we're going to get Hextech as the final soul. Anyone who agreed with me with the fact that Cloud Drake will be killed the most here at Worlds, I apologize wholeheartedly for suggesting it.
Oh yeah, I fell for that one.
Hextech is destroying right now. It's very, very difficult to deal with.
I think because Flowers did the same thing, and he had great logic that either it is and he is right, therefore he wins, or it is not, but I'll pause.
Yeah, there's a fight. There is going to be an Empress Divide in the mid lane, actually. Oh, I love that. Scout picks up his third. Oh, man, EDG off to the races and then some.
And this is exactly what we're talking about with that Victor into Azir matchup. They know Jensen's flash is down, so every single time, Scout just shoves in the wave, says, hey, guys, free kill, and they take down the Victor.
I also love the move from Flandre because I think Flandre looks his best when he's just able to push the wave and kind of have an uninteractive laning phase and look to supplement his team.
Okay.
Flandre, great team player. We saw there able to make his way towards the mid lane. So hey, if he isn't locked in that 1v1 with Fudge, things are looking good.
And I mean, I joke because we have some players like that in the LCK as well that like to skip lane, but it's the, I think, map play that EDG is showing here and finding early proactive leads for a team that I think by default is expected to do exceptionally well once we get to the later stage of the game, especially with this draft, is looking a bit rough for C9.
I also find it very strange that we don't see that more often. The use of the Emperor's Divide and then the heroic charge to do that Albus Nox Luna, as I like to call it, as they did many, many years ago with the Anivia Wall.
It's a throwback.
It does the same thing, but just not using that opportunity. Blabber trying to go for Flandre here, who's still sitting on Flash. Umbral Dash also there as well, as they do have vision on the Xin Zhao as he clears out that ward. And C9 just going to clear up this top wave. It looks like they're out of the woods for now.
Yeah, Blabber trying to find the opportunity, but I mean, with the amount of control that EDG have, it just feels so hard. You see a good amount of vision in River right now, and for C9, it feels like you kind of have to just end up giving up this Herald and playing for some of those first items to come out. We already hit on a win condition for C9. Could be something like once we get Gale Force on Berserker, playmaking potentials there. We know once Fudge gets his Mythic as well, he'll be doing incredibly well in this top lane matchup.
Yeah, EDG not having to invest anything bot side in order to get their Rift Herald, so everything working out very, very nicely. Being able to just have 3 people take away the Rift Herald, utilizing all of this tempo that they have. Emperor's Divide, there it is one more time, and we get it again! JJ's just having a great time here as, oh, Blabber comes in, will punish, picks up the shutdown as well as Mako's here. So not going to be able to get a next
Sven.
that, but there is a lantern, takes the ride to get out.
I thought the Kench was going to do it. Saw him waddle up. But this is, again, EDG just playing a textbook game. As Viper gonna get chunked, but Berserker not having enough damage. And I think specifically with champions like Azir, that even into something like Victor with a lot of wave clear, you get a big lead, your poke becomes so oppressive. So with the early Mythic, now Jensen is just continuously forced underneath his turret, and that makes it so much easier for EDG to play the rest of the map as Fudge.
Flandre chasing him down. Grand Challenge is going to be issued, and Fudge just gets himself out of there. So, does have to use his R button, but holds onto the flash. Should be absolutely fine. As we check this one out one more time, really good for C9 to be able to actually get that shot down.
Man, I just want to know what Jensen did to them. Like, the fact that they keep finding the repeat play feels so bad. Blabber, though, throws out the W, then follows up with the flash to be able to connect, is able to get the kill across. But, I mean, EDG in such a dominant position, and interestingly enough, it not coming from their bot lane. Yesterday, they weren't able to leverage that strength going against T1, and then once again today, opting into scaling and playing more through their top side.
I'm a glass half full kind of guy. At least with that shutdown going to Blabber, the gold is not looking too bad. I thought it was
under 1,000?
I thought it was going to be worse. They have the Drake lead as well. There's an angle there.
Objectives are extraordinarily important. I agree with you, New York. I reckon C9's definitely still in with a decent shot. They just have to contend with Scout here in this mid lane, who is very, very powerful as this is here. Also now picking up some plates for himself. And so it's only going to go from bad to worse as far as that particular matchup is concerned.
Yeah, and for EDG, just to say to the game right now in general, it feels like the biggest difference is just the amount of vision control EDG should be able to keep up with Blabber.
Yeah.
Gonna look for an opportunity mid.
Wrapping around already. No flash on Scout, but shifting sands is going to mean that C9 don't really have an avenue to get onto Scout right now. Flandre also roaming down as per usual, getting into position.
I just love how much Flandre is out on the map, right? Every single time he moves over, and that means that at the very least C9 needs to respond. Either Blabber needs to delay his clear a little bit, needs to make sure that he keeps Jensen covered, because even with the flash now still available, it takes one shuffle from Scout to get rid of that, and then he can get 2 or 3 more ganks in, like we've seen in the last couple of minutes, and it becomes very, very tough for C9 to kind of keep that mid lane alive.
Yeah, and I'm just so happy that Flandre, I can just go back to what I knew of Flandre, like, what, 5 years ago when I was an LPL caster, because it's just, he's exactly the same. Just plays for the rest of his team, did that on Snake as well, and now seems to be continuing. Am I right, Lyric? I don't know.
I mean, He just has been such a great team player all year long. And even like what he's doing, right? Even when he's not making his way down to mid, if he's playing off in Fog of War, it opens up to where EDG can start making these plays. C9 are constantly guessing, hey, where's the Aatrox going to be? And it prevents them from really being able to force their way into either mid or towards the spot side, because they're always scared that they're going to be at a numbers disadvantage.
Well, we are Abyssal diving forward. The hook is going to be there to greet him, but Mako now going to back away. Moonlight Vigil comes down. Berserker getting some damage in. Severum at the ready. Sven has to flash out, but does manage to do so. Emperor's Divide slides in, and Scout picks up his 5th of the game. Viper now getting a kill for himself, and EDG with all the kills on their late game carries.
And it was said earlier on the
Jump in here because it was a shorter pause than we expected. Tournament officials have reviewed the footage, determined that the performance Viper was experiencing was within the limits. They have informed the player who has accepted, and we are now resuming the game. Back over to you, Atlas.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Fantastic that we got to give VODS some screen time, especially when he's had such a great day today. And here we are, back with EDG versus C9. So, something seemed like it was going wrong for Viper, wasn't actually going wrong, or not going wrong enough, and we are now back in. And it didn't look like it was going very wrong. Like 1-0-1, Kraken Slayer completed. Jinx is probably having a great time.
Yeah, for Viper in a really solid spot, especially because, again, he's going to be the big defining member. The later we go on the game, kind of going to be the highest range champion, especially once you get something like a rapid fire cannon coming on through. But I feel like the key thing is, right, we've had EDG sitting on item advantages for quite a long time. But now with things like Divine Sunder coming out in top lane, the Gale Force finally hit for Berserker, C9 potentially going to be able to start looking for angles. I feel like definitely going to need to cross map. We can already see EDG getting control of the bot side. With Blabber up towards top, Fudge heading there now, may be able to start looking at those plays.
Yeah, and the thing that I find really unfortunate here for C9 is that if EDG are able to just stack up Mountain Drakes, any sort of win condition just becomes so much more difficult. And yes, Fiora does some true damage and things like that, yep, but there is just no way that you ever win a team fight against this team, no matter what happens, really. You start stacking them up. But Slow comes through here from the riposte. There's a grand challenge. The flash to come through it with the ulti from Blabber as Flandre is going to turn up. Scout just keeping his distance. Super Mega Death Rocket will be included, and Flandre locks down the C9 jungler, and now they're looking for even more. That Q hit for a lot more damage than I was expecting, and EDG will scare C9 away.
And it's an attempt from C9, but EDG turn it around. Unfortunately, killing a Fed Azir with Summoner's Ultimate and Crown of the Shattered Queen. Upgrade is Sven.
Yeah, that's the special delivery, and Mako's the one that picks up the kill in the end. The Catfish, not exactly that tanky right now. Oh, flash does Mako, and Flandre is gifted another one.
That was such a huge hook coming out for Mako. Cloud9 just not being able to answer back, full control of topside. Jidget taking the Herald, and Berserker gonna do his best to look for bot.
And they don't want to say it, the desk went there, but I can say it now. C9's getting clapped. EDG just firing on all cylinders.
I reckon they could win Worlds. Oh, hang on.
Oh, hold up.
Very recently. Yeah, Scout, it was kicked back, and it was a cute play. It was a cute play from Blabber there to try, and of course, trying to get some kills on a Scout here is a smart idea, but this is, yeah, EDG too far ahead.
And it's one of the things where EDG were actually already rotating members up because Herald was the objective coming up on the map. I mean, Scout able to buy a lot of time, and then here, actually no time.
Well, if at first you don't succeed, try again, and this time bring more friends. Oh. I don't know whether it's going to go. Mako saves Scout's life. This Thresh has been everywhere this game.
Oh, this is just getting painful. Every time that C9 tried to get a collapse, Scout says, is that all you got?
NA, I am sorry, but it looks like T1 pissed EDG off yesterday, and they are taking it out on Cloud9.
Oh, they absolutely are. And also, Mako is showing Carrier what to do. Like, this Thresh play is definitely the best we've seen today.
Too soon, Atlas, too soon.
I had to do it otherwise.
Oh, no, you're right.
So Mega Death Rocket is going to sail by majestically, picked up by Jensen here on his way out of the fountain. He's going to just gets a Band-Aid, goes back to Boris, purchases a Band-Aid. He's going to be absolutely fine. Then he's going to get out onto the Summoner's Rift, and it's not going to be as fine unless C9 can find themselves some sort of miracle here. JJ stealing away this blue buff, giving it over to Scout, who has had just everything. Shadow Flame now completed. And Sazir, man, he is just doing wonders. I swear, this top side of the map, the Aatrox, Poppy, Azir, it's unbeatable.
Oh yeah, I mean, we're gonna
Unless
see.
it was yesterday.
This is gonna start. I mean, you know, maybe the Senna Singe not to play, but for EDG, you just cannot let Scout have this champion in my mind, performing so well on it here in today's game. And honestly, being a full item up over Jensen in the mid lane, we just saw them drop the Herald, so getting even further ahead in gold, it sets them up for the pressure with C9 being pushed in to start up the Drake.
And as far as Dragons go, if it wasn't hard enough for C9, with Fudge being very far behind, their composition having a really tough time in general playing against the extreme range that is available from EDG, and them having a relative lack of hard engage, they're also stacking Mountain Dragons. And if you thought EDG had leeway before, if you get a couple of those, actually killing someone who's caught inside is just going to become impossible.
No, Fiora does true damage, Chronicler.
Yeah, that's good. It's a good point. I didn't consider that. Thanks, Atlas.
I just need to provide. I need to provide as much hopium as possible here because it's very difficult to find.
Yeah.
At this position in the game, we're about to crest the 20-minute mark. EDG, couple of dragons and a 6,000 gold lead, and on top of that, like you say, just a teamfight composition that is looking extraordinarily powerful with where the money is and how the map has been set up at this point in time. Mako comes on over. Sven not going to have a long enough tongue to dissuade the Thresh from clearing out that ward, and Viper happily clearing up minions here in this mid lane.
And I actually really like the way that EDG are playing this, right? Scout being on the Azir is very safe to push out sides, keep Viper in mid, and then kind of have JJ and Mako as this two-man core roaming back and forth, making sure if C9 do look for picks on side is kind of the only option even potentially available, that you have them there to shadow and match, and then make it so like every other play we've seen, right, goes in EDG's favor, but also giving Viper some safety in mid lane. And Flandre now, having the death stance, I mean, you guys already hit on things like the Mountain Dragons already starting to come out. Feels like he's just going to have the better time in the 1v1 against Fudge.
And now with EDG also trying to choke out Vision as much as they can around the Baron pit for C9 is going to be even worse because, especially if you can get the Jinx and the Azir both towards the objective, you can take it very, very quickly. And for C9, you have two choices. Either try to walk through fog into an EDG, which seems like kind of a disaster. And even if you do get there, is JJ going to have his ult? Are you actually going to be able to find an angle in as Lucas found?
Yeah, Sven going to be able to walk this one off, but this turret is going down extraordinarily quickly as soon as EDG get on over there. Another hook will connect. Berserker's going to get consumed. Oh, the knock-up's still going to connect. Mako's going to get answered. C9, have they found it? Grand challenge is issued. Viper's in trouble. The ult's going to come through. Gets rid of the Fiora for now. And now Flandre's found his angle. Blabber just tries to turn it around. Berserker creating space in the opponent. He's alive. Didn't even need the Gale Force to finish him off. And now EDG are on the run. I have no idea how C9 managed to find that.
EDG slightly overstepped. The knockup comes out from Sven. Fudge able to make his way into the fight. And then honestly, Flandre kind of going in by himself, kind of misjudging how much damage he'd be able to get onto Berserker.
And crucially, at the beginning of that, Flandre was making his way over. He felt good. Look at him. He's getting a free turret inside. And initially, it looks like Mako, he is just looking. But the moment he goes down, after the ultimate from Berserker, that's where C9, and credit to them, smell the weakness. Without the Aatrox there is a definite possibility you are a man up, but with Mako already being down. And Flandre, as you pointed out, going in basically alone, doesn't find the backline, doesn't find the resets, and goes down.
Yeah, and the riposte was absolutely fantastic from Fudge as well. Not only did he avoid all of the damage, but managed to keep the Aatrox still for long enough for Berserker to just kill him. Really fantastic play here from C9, but they're going to need more of that.
Yeah.
They're going to come back in this.
Yeah. And, you know, looking at it, right, doesn't really change the state of the game, but the fact that members of C9 now able to hit 2 items, Fudge now able to pick up the Hydra, we can see Bloodthirster now picked up from Berserker as well, definitely hitting some of those key mid-game spikes is Blabber.
Hook's going to land. Chomper's not going to activate though, so the Xin Zhao will be able to make his way out. And gets on over, we'll clear out some Krugs, and otherwise everything is going to be fine. And I think Sven is going to be so important here for C9. You saw already that the Devour, very, very powerful in these fights if someone gets hooked, if someone gets engaged on. And that could be a way that C9 find this miracle that we're looking for. Keeper's Verdict going to get charged, but just JJ being a bit of a helicopter, zoning the rest of C9 away as the inner turret is going to get taken. Blabber may have stepped a little bit too far forward, but thankfully the Poppy not quite fast enough.
Really liking the Bloodthirst here from Berserker as well. Playing into Viper now with the rapid fire cannon finished, as well as Scout, who obviously very fed, has been the entire game. The additional sustain means that you're actually able to stay in fights as long as you can get a wave, find a jungle camp, or at least get something. And that might give C9 another angle. I do think that as more dragons are going to start coming through, opportunities like they just had are going to be so much harder to find.
Exactly, and I do feel like EDG are going to need to be a bit tempered, because if they keep looking for those pick potential themselves, right, Mako going in for the hook, Scout dashing in, trying to find the Emperor's Divide under C9's turrets in like their comfort zone, it's going to set up opportunities for C9 to find those picks. But if EDG just play for things like the neutrals, it's so hard for C9 to walk into the comp that EDG have.
And with the control that EDG have of the map as well, it isn't really an opportunity for C9 to go for a steal. As Blabber, he's just going to walk it.
Yeah.
EDG, a little spread thin.
Apparently, if you just walk up to the pit, that's how you manage to steal it, as Riposte is still going to be able to find a bit of a stun there, as another ult's going to get channeled, but JJ is going to cancel it. Now the rest of EDG will join. So, EDG looking to lock down Soul Point. Hook is going to connect, but there's another Devour for Sven. All right, the Poppy's going to be able to take down the Drake, but can they win the team fight is the question this time. Flandre once again going to get stunned up. The hook will connect, and it's going to be Fudge punished this time around.
And honestly, it looked a bit dicey for EDG, like they didn't expect C9 to contest, but still EDG able to make the turnaround. Mako once again finds the hook, and it looks like Barons on the cards for Edward Gaming.
All they needed was Scout's teleports, and yeah, initially, as you pointed out, Atlas, Blabber just walks up and is like, what's going on? Are you gonna? Where is everybody? Am I gonna get this dragon? But response from EDG is immediate. And now Blabber does have smite, does have flash, but no, not happening.
Keeper's verdict is going to evict the Xin Zhao. That means yet another smite is very, very comfortable here for the Poppy. Going to be able to secure it. Secret Agent Poppy to secure both of them, one after the other. Let's check out this fight one more time. This hook, just amazing from Mako.
Yeah, great for Mako. Forces out the ultimate to come from Sven, but C9 feeling desperate, look for the engage. A fair amount of damage actually done by Jensen and Berserker at first with the burst, but this hook on Mako, Riposte was already down, and just allows for the pick on Fudge to come through.
Yeah, picking the juke yet again. Pulls off what I like to call the bunny foo-foo in the top lane for that first one. That is a callback to 2014. I'm not allowed to do that, I don't think, but he did make a play very, very similar. And then being able to do it one more time, picking the juke against Fudge there around that Dragon Pit. Certainly Mako having a fantastic game here on this Thresh.
And it's nice to see, because even though I think Mako was actually one of the supports who could function in the Enchanter meta, still looks so much better when he is on these engaged champions with the setup, with how decisive he is in finding these opportunities. And the mechanics today have just been on point.
He's just looking incredible, and I'd say, barring that one mistake where they got a little bit over-enthusiastic, EDG as a whole has just looked a very far distance removed away from C9, who, again, went for a draft. I think it was better than yesterday. There were a little bit more opportunities, but with how the early game went, none of them came to fruition. And they're on the verge of going down 0-2 here. We're going to need to see a really big adaptation, because otherwise, I think they might keep running into the same trouble.
Yep, and ever since that slight overextension, you've noticed the complete change in the play from EDG. It's like they found the line, and they're like, all right, we don't step over that one again. And we just...
We respect it.
Yep, very calmly and collectedly cross some I's and dot some T's. Hook's going to connect, yet again, denied by the Devour. But that is a long cooldown that now won't be available. Also, not going to be able to get any value out of the huge shield that you pick up from that one as well. As Scout just happily chilling inside C9's face right here. And EDG just looking to knock this one down. C9 don't seem to have any sort of answer at this stage. And oh man, these rockets are really starting to do some work. Viper, I feel like it's too early for the Jinx to really be online right now, but he is starting to do a whole lot of damage. Now, those autos are going to come through. Sidesteps on the Riposte. Super Mega Death Rocket will be exactly that. He gets excited, but the Crescent Guard's pretty good there from Blabber, just not quite eventuating to too much. Jensen picks up that one kill. There's the Emperor's Divide to just sweep up Berserker. And now C9, the ace, I think, is going to get completed. as the 2021 World Champions will claim their first Nexus of the group stage. C9 denied this time around, but man, EDG just looking dominant this game.
Great bounce back from their loss yesterday. Looks like they came in with a plan. Punish mid lane over and over and over. And, you know, it just keeps going with how much they were putting into the mid lane. And then they just never let go of the control that they found.
And when the victor was locked in, we mentioned it, maybe they'll go for that. Well, they did. What was it, 4, 5 times in a row?
Yeah.
Some of them, Jensen was able to stay alive, but most of the times just didn't quite work out.
Mako looking a bit awkward on how to... there we go.
Yeah,
Okay, everything's resolved peacefully.
Not intentional. I was a little bit of a worry there for a second, but bit of patience and they got there. EDG take a well-deserved bow after an absolutely amazing performance, especially that gentleman standing in the middle. Whoa. Scout just